It was supposed to be a normal day for Sarah. She was meeting her best friend Emily for lunch at a cafe downtown, a cozy spot she frequented during her lunch breaks. The warm sun filtered through the trees outside, and the streets were bustling with people going about their day. Everything felt familiar, comforting even. But then she saw him. As Sarah stood in line to order, she noticed a man standing at the counter. He was tall, with dark hair, dressed in a crisp black jacket. There was something unsettling about him, an intensity in his gaze that made her feel uneasy. But when he turned, his eyes met hers. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. There was something so eerily familiar about him, something Sarah couldn't place. Her heart skipped a beat as she quickly turned away, trying to shake off the feeling. Maybe she was just imagining things. But as Sarah took her seat at the table with Emily, she couldn't stop glancing around. The man was still there, seated at a table across the room. His eyes were fixed on her, never wavering, as though he were watching her every move. "Sarah, what's wrong?" Emily asked, noticing her discomfort. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice trembling slightly. "It's just, there's something about that guy. He looks so familiar, but I don't know why." Emily glanced over and shrugged. "Maybe he's just someone from your past. You meet a lot of people, right?" But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling. She knew that face. She had seen it before, but not in this cafe. Not in this moment. After lunch, as they left the cafe, Sarah couldn't help but look over her shoulder. The man was standing near the door, his gaze still locked on her. She quickly looked away and rushed to her car, a strange chill running down her spine. Later that night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the encounter in her mind, trying to figure out where she had seen that man. The more she thought about it, the more a terrifying realization began to form. It wasn't just the face that was familiar. It was his name. Sarah had known him years ago. A man named Mark. They had been friends in high school, close enough that they had shared secrets and dreams for the future. But that was years ago. Sarah hadn't thought about him in a long time. In fact, the last time she saw him was when he had suddenly disappeared. No one had heard from him after that day. She checked her phone, typing his name into the search bar. Her stomach dropped when she saw the first result. Missing person, Mark Anderson, last seen 10 years ago. A cold sweat broke out across Sarah's skin. How was this possible? Mark had vanished, and yet there he was, standing in the cafe, as if he had never left. The next day, Sarah tried to reach out to Emily, but the call went straight to voicemail. When she checked her social media, there was no sign of Emily either, no messages, no posts. It was as though she had completely disappeared from the world. The only thing left was a single message from an unknown number. "I know you remember me. It's time to come back." Terrified, Sarah returned to the cafe, hoping to find some answers. But when she arrived, the cafe was completely empty, as if it had been abandoned for years. The walls were covered in dust, the tables overturned, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. There, standing in the center of the cafe, was Mark. His face was the same, but his eyes were different, empty, hollow, like two dark voids. "You shouldn't have come back," he whispered, his voice distant and cold. Sarah turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't look back, not even once, as the echoes of his voice chased her through the empty streets. She never saw Emily again. The last time Sarah checked her phone, the message was still there, waiting for her. "Come back to me, Sarah. You're already a part of this."